Well, you know what that sound means? It's time for Morning Beat. Licensed psychologists and psychologists in training, they've been quitting their jobs at state correctional facilities, and it's happening at a very alarming rate. Chad Blair is here from Civil Beat to talk a little bit more about this. All right, Chad, what's the problem here?
Well, it's a serious problem. So this is Kevin Dayton, who covers the prisons and jails for us at Civil Beat. He opens his story with the story of about an inmate who's at Kailua. That's the prison here on Oahu. He's suffering from schizophrenia, suffering from depression. He even tells his mom, "Mom, I'm hearing voices inside my head." Well, not long ago, he hanged himself in his cell. This is the 7th suicide in Hawaii facilities since 2022. That's the same time period in which we've lost at least 9 of these psychologists and these licensed ones that are in training. Is there a correlation? Critics say yes. It's a symptom of a mental health crisis in our facilities.
What's crazy to me, Chad, is when I was reading this article that at first I thought we were talking about the state hospital, but we're not. We're actually talking about the prisons and jails here. And are they just having a tough time staffing these psychologists?
You're actually making a very good point, because the state hospital is for mentally ill people. Tommy Johnson, who runs the department that oversees jails and prisons, says, look, you can't keep sending people who have mental health problems into our jails for petty misdemeanors, petty crimes. They're not serious crimes. They need to be helped outside of jail. They need community help, and that's part of the problem. Now, they do also say, look, we've got nurses, we've been able to contract with psychologists and psychiatrists, but critics told Kevin there's a real problem, and suicide is particularly one of the biggest concerns because it requires constant attention watching that inmate.
So there have been a multitude of problems. One of them is that sometimes you have prisoners who are on suicide watch.
Right.
And you can't get them off. What's the issue with that?
Well, it's a very difficult thing. On the one hand, they have to be isolated, right? They can't be around their phones and other things. Obviously, you don't want them to kill themselves, like what happened to that young man in Lava. But if you don't have enough people to be there all the time, one of the areas where we're seeing this, by the way, is in Kailua at the women's prison, where at least 5 people were on that suicide watch. Big concern that that's not being taken care of.
This has got to be a bigger overall issue, right, for the prisons, because we're just talking about one small area, but meanwhile, you have to watch all the other inmates as well. This has got to be a huge staffing issue.
Right. It's a problem in Hilo at their jail. It's a problem on Maui at their facilities. It's also a nationwide problem. And one other thing, this is not the first time we've experienced this. It was like 20 years ago, the feds had to step in, appoint a special master. I think OCCC was the area of focus. There's now concerns and calls that maybe we need a special master to once again step in, help us with this crisis.
So that would be the solution?
That is one proposed solution. Here's another issue. There's actually a class action lawsuit involving some of the inmates that died, committed suicide. That's pending to go to trial next year. So that could shake things up as well.
All right, so big issue here. You should read the full article. You can go to civilbeat.org, or you can text 66866 to get the newsletter. Thanks for being here, Chad.
Thanks, Grace.
All right, Casey.